Good evening again, Douglas Phelps. I want to be honest. I felt that it would have been best initially today to do the what the truth is between me and Realtor, and I promise you, sometime soon, I think tomorrow, I'm gonna talk about it, tell you what I saw at the time, and what I see today and what I understand. And the truth is, was that wasn't really what I thought to begin with. But many years far removed, almost. But anyways, enough of what I'm going to talk about in the future. Today I want to talk about something important. Very, very important for all of us, right? Call it motivation, call it fact, right? Call it something that maybe I needed to say, but never said. So, on episode 2 of Keepin It Real 100, it's not so much today about me keeping it real. It's about helping you to have the courage to be able to do it yourself. And today I want to talk about something that's more important than everything else. And what I see that goes on behind the scenes that you don't see, right? First of all, Douglas Phelps, right? So today's topic is episode 2 of Keepin It Real 100. Episode 2. Never be ashamed at the end of the day, right? And this isn't some free-thinking psychiatric agenda, or, how shall I put it, or some attempt at some benign, chaotic plan, which I just don't have time for, right? But I do feel that this is very important to say. I see it all the time. People sometimes, with all due respect, seem ashamed, right? From the get-go, we're taught to be servants, when the real us, upon reflection, are not this way, right? We're taught to be the servant, right? Doesn't matter we're taught from the get-go. When we're born, it doesn't matter what we think. It matters what our parents think. And don't get me wrong, I love my parents, right? But sometimes beliefs never are important, man. Parents have paid their dues. We're learning to pay them. And that's just how it goes when we're a kid. But it never matters what we think. If we please our parents, we get a nice little $1 bill. We might get to add a sticker to a postcard, the typical children's stuff. And when we do wrong, we're sent to our rooms. Heck, during my generation, we had our butts busted, and I'm not ashamed to say it, it was a different time, right? But from the get-go, we're taught to be ashamed of who we are. Whether it's intended or not, we're taught by our parents to be ashamed of who we are. Like I said, maybe it's for the best intent, maybe it's for a good reason. And I'm not saying parents are bad. Heck, I don't even know what goes on in legitimate story cases of bad parents, right? You have to look at both sides to make the fact. Not denying anybody and claiming total ignorance. But never be ashamed of who you are at the end of the day, right? This has been the secret to who I am. It's been the secret to putting the extra mile in to live past the next guy when life was at its most threatening and its most dangerous. Never be ashamed of who you are. Nobody can know you or know what you're about if you are afraid to talk about you at the end of the day. It's an important message. And I'm not saying this because I have an opinion about you. I am saying this because, believe it or not, everybody wants to know who you are. I meet it all the time. So many people afraid, oh my God, this guy's going to do this or this guy's going to do that, man. We're not taught to be negative people. We're taught to identify ourselves. It's our nature to identify with each other. Never be ashamed of who you are. You want to talk about imperfection? I could write the book on it. You want to talk about experimentation and not having a clue? I could write another book on that too, about how I got here. Never be ashamed of who you are. You know, it's like a man once told me when I thought I knew everything about what was right and what was wrong with him at the end of the day. You know what he says? Until you've walked a day in my shoe, you aren't qualified to judge what is right and what is wrong with me, right? Never be ashamed of what you think. We're taught, it has always been, right? It's not like government is doing something new. It's not like society's doing something unique. Yeah, we have technology. We have a YouTube. We have a gajillion games on both Google Play, Xbox, then whatever the current Nintendo system is. And we have a lot of things that didn't exactly come close to existence when this planet was born. But why is it we always wonder why those guys got it, yet we have everything we have? It's because we're taught to be ashamed of who we are. We're taught to be ashamed of who we are and hide behind a fucking game instead of dealing with the responsibility and the agreement and the disagreement of what other people think, right? You know what? Here's the truth. You want to talk about disagreement? Get in line. There's like a line of over 10,000 of people who disagree with me, who were taught these things, but really don't know the struggle of what they're talking about. But, it's like one time a person said, if it's on a TV show, it makes everything true and correct. Does it? Have you ever talked to an actor? Wrestling's so perfect. I loved it greatly as a kid. I loved the Hulk Hogan era. But you know what I didn't do until I was 20 years old? Actually talk to a wrestler who in a Walmart store wanted to relax and hide from his storyline so much, as great as they were. I made everything so perfect when you're somebody else, isn't it? Everything is so grass and green and rosy. Here's the truth, man. And I've been half of the way in the world, and it don't matter where you look at it. You always see it. It's not greener on the other side. It's not green to be a badass. It's not green to always win. It's victory is its own responsibility at the end of the day. Never be ashamed of who you are. We as people always want to know about who we are because we always think about somebody else and how great their life is. Like, seriously. And we're taught from the get-go to keep our mouths shut and let you think we really have it all better. Everything's a responsibility. It don't matter if you're a pharmacist, a psychiatrist, a telemarketer, a car salesman, a politician, a movie star, a musician. It doesn't matter. If you're on top, it's your responsibility to provide for your family and be on top. And that doesn't matter who you are. The more, what I've learned in 40 years of living, that no matter how powerful, how great a person I might think that they are, you know what? And it's not great when you're them, because it's a responsibility. Not to say that they're not proud of it, not to say that they're not glad when they're looking at themselves in the mirror for what they've done, but they understand that there's a false glamour, and sometimes they're taught to not say it, not to dispel the myth, and sometimes that's great, sometimes that's good, sometimes that leads to better pathways for people who are intended for it, right? I love real estate, but at the end of the day, I'll never sit here and tell you it's glamour, it's glitz, it's $1 million handed to you. It's great it has its perks that work for my mind type, just like Employeeville has perks that are meant for your mind type, and of course you're going to reap the benefit of it, right? We all have some good and some bad, and we all can sell, and 9 times out of 10, typically, potentially speaking, we sell good. But one of the biggest mistakes we make is sometimes we don't educate people properly about what the truth is. And the truth is, no matter where you look at it, success is its own responsibility. Living longer than your assailant is its own responsibility. I mean, so many crazy theories said, but they're crazy, right? Like, here's one I've heard. One of the most popular trollish things as of late. You know? It's like the Joker one time said in a movie. Granted, it's a movie and not real. But what is it? Sometimes, one of the things that bothered me for 7 years, that struck me, but you asked me back then, you're just a loon, right? You're just a loon if you think that you live so long to be the villain, to being a hero, that you see yourself become the villain, right? But the truth is, no matter what policeman in existence, what defense force, what military man, what badass, what killer, in the name of our own perceived good, ever once thought this to themselves, you know what? I've lived so much to beat everybody in existence that I'm the hero. I'm always the good guy. Oh, wait a minute. Here's the reality. Society's become peaceful one day. And you struggle every day inside and out because you're starting to see yourself become the villain. What you're taught to think is innocent and altruistic and unrealistic at the end of the day, you start to see yourself become the villain. You know what I say? Stop being ashamed of who you are, and you will always be who you are, right? We're all taught to communicate our stories. We're all taught to talk about business that is best for us, right? No matter who we are. You are special. Never be ashamed of who you are, lest the demons come to play tonight with your soul. No matter what religion you believe in, this is not a religious speech. That is not my job. That is not my specialty. My specialty, more or less, is teaching things that you can see with your face, that you can think with your head, right? It's always been my role, no matter what I'm talking about. It's what I do best, and I hope that I always hope at the end of the day, secretly, that it helps one person, right? Because God always gave us a responsibility to help, to do our best, to try to impact somebody's life. When we deny ourselves that, we become ashamed of who we are. Never be ashamed of who you are. You just might save somebody from wanting to jump off a cliff, and you never know it, right? I'm not making a bold statement for you. I sure as hell don't want you. I sure as hell would not willingly go off of any cliff for anybody. I sure as hell wouldn't expect you to jump off a cliff. What I would expect is that if anybody pushed you to jump off a cliff, you would tell him, try it. I dare you. That would just seem the naturally human thing to do, right? Never be ashamed of who you are. And if you or I were ever meant to jump off a cliff, at least we didn't go willingly, right? Never be ashamed of who you are. You like motivation? Well, my motivation is kind of unique. It talks about adversity I've seen, that I've seen others, and it talks about winning amongst it. If you wish to be ashamed of who you are, I feel sorry for you, and I pray for you. And I don't say this as if I've never done that. For most of my life, for half of it, I'm not going to lie to you, I was ashamed of who I was. Instead of doing what I knew that my body was telling me was right, I was taking drugs because people couldn't ever wrap their heads around me. I always feel that. I feel that today. You know what? Wrap your head around me. Heck, want an explanation. I'm not ashamed of who I am. And if you need to wrap your head around me, you might want to ask, you might want to inquire versus not being able to get where I'm coming from. We're all taught to try to figure things out. We're all taught to try to understand somebody else. We should never be ashamed of who you are. Hey, my name's Douglas Phelps. Like I've said, you think everybody is going to be ashamed of you that, well, gee, what I think is just going to get so much scrutiny? You know what I've learned about fear? Every time, you know what I've learned? You know what sure, it's a self-perturbed myth of convincing myself when I tell you I am fearless. Here's the truth. I know what it's like to be afraid. There are some things that later needed to be said more because I was afraid, and this has been the case for 5, 10, 15 years. HRs are taught to teach people to be ashamed of who they are. Employee, though, 9 times out of 10, and if there is a number 10 that I have yet to see in real world existence, hey, don't be ashamed of who you are, businesses. You are who you are. Never be ashamed, right? I don't know, maybe you have a good reason. Pardon me if I am so ignorant that I just don't see it. This isn't really for Employeeville so much. This is for your overall life. Never be ashamed of who you are. There's always the next guy that thinks that your rose is greener. And I'll never teach a greener pathway. I got the same grass to maintain like you do. But I also have the same responsibility to tell people what I do good and throw a tip out there, and you tell me what you do good, and we become better together. And we create a better world together. We're taught to do this. This is one of the things that I will always be thankful for Christianity, even if I have not been perfect in displaying it. I mean, it's not so much a perfection issue, because Christianity was never meant to be for perfection. Perfection became for us because, well, you know the story, right? And if you need to know more, never be ashamed of your desire to want to be good. We all have it. Every person who has never said, you know what, this is terrible, good doesn't exist. Good does. And it exists in you. Never be ashamed of who you are. Right? Somebody else is thinking your world is better than theirs. It always exists. Right? And like I said, I have my perks. And I have my things that may not be for you. Okay? Hey, all good. Everybody's meant to fulfill a role in the world, in the universe, in Jupiter, planet Pluto, whatever, right? Never be ashamed of that aspect that is you. It's never said enough, and you know what? I never say it enough. I never even tell my friends this enough, right? It's like, I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of who you are. But it's never said enough to never be ashamed of who you are. You know what I learned in 40 years of living? There's always going to be plenty of people. There's always going to be a few people that will get me great and appreciate the beauty that I bring. And there will be 10,000 people that was like, you know what? That's ugly. You know what? After 4 years, I can say that yes, I fought. Yes, I did this. Yes, it might be barbaric. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm not ashamed of who I am. And quite frankly, it's a responsibility of every man, of every woman, to come back to your home safe and sound and bring that bread. And that when you go out, there could be at any time assailants. That while sugar-coated society will always be politicians and world leaders' attempted gift for our benefit, irregardless of conspiracy theories, yeah. But there's always going to be that questioner. It don't matter what world leader you are. It don't matter what leader you are. There will always be people that don't get it. It's like I've always said, a wise man once told me, genius is a gift you don't get until later on down the road. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes the geniusness of it doesn't really get seen by many others until 50 years later. I mean, if you really think about it, truth be told, nobody got Van Gogh's paintings when he was alive and painting them. 100 years later, after he's dead and gone, it gets put in a museum and he develops a name that is still continuing. That is geniusness. And a lot of people will not get it, right? It's okay. Never be ashamed of that geniusness. Take it from a guy who has always tried to be civil with the wrong people. I mean, I do have a responsibility to be professional, but at the same time, I can be the best professional by never being ashamed of who I am. Right? People get scared of it because they're like, oh wow, I become insignificant because somebody be's all they can be. No disrespect to the military, but it takes more than Army to be all you can be. It takes more than Navy to be all you can be. It takes more than the Air Force to be all you can be. It takes more than any entity in existence or any group of in existence to be all you can be. And you know where it all starts? Where the truth of it is? How you always win and always have a food on your table in spite of all your enemies? Because you are never ashamed of who you are. And sometimes people being ashamed of what you say is the price. Is another way of saying, hey, we don't get you. We don't know your shoes, right? That's the truth. So if there's one gift I give to you, it's never be ashamed of who you are. Stop settling for a subpar version of you out of fear. There's always, take it from a guy like me, no matter how tough I get, there will always be people trying to bully me, to silence me, to do this. Here's the reality. Here's the kicker. Do you think you're going to get a warm reception when you're telling people what you think? No. Sometimes there's a part of us that hates the truth we speak. There's a part, as much as there will always be an appreciation for truth, there will always be a side of truth a dark side of truth that wants to silence truth. It has always existed. It's nothing new to this generation. It's nothing new to my dad's generation. It ain't nothing new to Jesus or the cavemans. It has always existed. Never be ashamed of who you are. This is my gift to you. And hopefully, in the next year, I've empowered somebody to not, at least one person, to not be ashamed of who they are. You know what I mean? We don't get things. Everybody chooses to live differently. I chose to grow a beard and have fabulous hairdo. You chose to get a manicure, to be a guy who got a manicure, pedicure, whatever cure. Even better, you chose to be a girl who got a pedicure and fixed up her hair and made herself look pretty, and I'm the guy looking. Hey, never be ashamed of who you are. This is instead of wanting you to give me a birthday present, I figured I would give you one and let you know what the truth is. So, with that being said, this is my video to you. This is my episode 2. This is my promise to keep talking. Sometimes you gotta understand that, hey man, somebody want to hear your stories, and maybe it's a little hard to see it. But maybe, no matter how you're feeling today and how crazy it might sound to you, somebody wants to hear your story. It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. The truth is, there is never a reason, when it's all said and done, to never be ashamed of who you are. So hello, Douglas Phelps, real estate investor. And yeah, brokers, it's okay to be ashamed of who I am. You're not the first, you're not going to be the last. But at least I tried to bring you value, and you can't, and I can't, and I don't have to worry about that when I look in the mirror. I try to bring value to both sides. I always have, I always will. I mean, after all, if you're not helping people, you're not doing business correctly. And I've always thought that. Never be ashamed of who you are. But with that being said, you will always be agency. I can only hope that more educated agents surface. Because I'm not ashamed of agency either. I mean, when I was an agent, I was never ashamed to be taught and brought into this business of investors. And talking to investors later, I've never been ashamed to say that, hey, I've been an agent. After all, it makes sense that I would try it. I have always been trustful, and I have never intentionally steered you wrong or tried to play it corruptly. And I can take that with me to my grave, no matter what battles I win, what battles I've lost, or what battles I'm going to lose in the future, or what battles I'm going to win. I've never been ashamed of who I am. I'm not ashamed of my dad. Did he always get me? Hey, man, I love my dad, but seriously, I think it was almost nigh impossible for him to get my head around me. He didn't understand that maybe something different needed to surface in the world for once. That there has always been this need, and it doesn't begin with me. It didn't begin with me, and it won't end with me. I've never been ashamed of who I am. Whether that be a comic book geek, a gaming addict, an agent not wanting to believe the reality that's really going on until he just snaps and couldn't believe it. Hey, man. Or whether that be, hey, man, maybe real estate investing takes works and I need to not quit because the business needed a choice, right? Business has always needed choice, and I'm not ashamed to bring my own brand to that business. I'm not there to shut a brand down. Heck, I want every brokerage to succeed and to be the best that they can be. I've never hated I never wind up ultimately hating agency in spite of everything. I've never been ashamed to be who I am. If you can't get it, hey man, I'm not going to apologize. It's not my fault if you are ashamed of who you are. I pity you. I pity it. But hopefully this video teaches you to be that, hey man, you can be a part of the ashamed curve, or you can be better and you can be bold because of it. You know, was I always handed respect? No. I've had to earn it in good and bad and in being. But I can honestly say with a straight face, I respect who everybody is. But please, don't be ashamed of who you are. Show me. Everybody wants to see who everybody is. It's always been a part of us. But anyways, I hope this empowers you. It's 31 minutes. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's something you can listen to when you feel like you have been beaten beyond belief by this world. When you feel that all the choices have been taken out of your life, you can listen to this message and take it from a guy who who very few have ever understood, who very often feels that way, respectfully, that there is no shame in who you are. This is Douglas Phelps. Peace, love, and empowerment, and best wishes. And hey man, at the end of the day, not understanding me is not what I always remember at the end of the day. Peace out. Douglas Phelps. And welcome to the new real estate talk show, Keepin It Real 100. And hey man, if you like, I don't do advertisements. Click down below and you can see my Patreon for, I don't know, whatever you see there. I just got it up and running. And never be ashamed of who you are.